Word salad city. That's how David Axelrod, the chief strategist on Barack Obama's presidential campaigns, described Kamala Harris's CNN town hall with Anderson Cooper. And the journalists on Fox News, they just can't get enough of it.
Anderson asked her, why didn't she do what she promised as a vice president? And this was her answer. There was a lot done, but there's more to do. I'm pointing out things that need to be done that haven't been done, but need to be done.
Yeah. Well, now that makes sense. Now that you read it back, now I get it. There were some direct questions that we all want the answers to. Particularly undecided voters want the answers to.
So frustrating to watch.
One of I read.
I'm not frustrated.
I read this morning that apparently she was asked a pretty simple question, and she gave a 7-minute answer that didn't actually answer the question.
What is she?
Here is Barack Obama's former advisor, David Axelrod, over on CNN with his assessment of her performance. And you know what? It was not good.
I think it was a mixed night, okay? I think she was very strong coming out of the gate. She was very strong on, as she has been, on abortion rights because she feels passionately about it. She could be clinical on some of these economic issues. She was great on the long-term care for the the elderly. The things that would concern me is when she doesn't want to answer a question, her habit is to kind of go to word salad city, and she did that on a couple of answers. One was on Israel. Anderson asked a direct question, would you be stronger on Israel than Trump? And there was a 7-minute answer, but none of it related to the question he was asking.
Tell you something, the analysis that one of the Obama bros is giving is essentially reflecting what the former president of the United States, President Barack Obama, feels, and David Plouffe, who's now running Kamala Harris's campaign. I owe them a lot of credit from my childhood teaching me how to do community organizing, knock on doors, communicate with. She has some of the best tacticians on her campaign. The problem is they have a terrible candidate. They were used to dealing with Barack Obama, who can go out there and speak and communicate to the American people, who wanted the moderates to come and vote for him, who was called the deporter-in-chief. And now you have a candidate that has had years to craft some sort of message, and she has nothing at all for the American people. I mean, good luck.
No, this is why the answer is Donald Trump is.
So yeah, that was a bona fide Obama bro admitting that Kamala Harris just doesn't have it. In fact, even in admitting her own mistakes, the vice president fumbled what she said.
I mean, I've made many mistakes. And they range from, you know, if you've ever parented a child, you know you make lots of mistakes too. In my role as vice president, I mean, I've probably worked very hard at making sure that I am well versed on issues, and I think that is very important. It's a mistake not to be well versed on an issue and feel compelled to answer a question.
Look, that answer was clearly an affront to fluidity. I'll allow you to attack that if you'd like, but there's also a question in there. What issue is she well versed on, Danielle?
There's absolutely no issue she's well versed on. We just saw for over an hour on CNN, Kamala Harris refuse to answer a single question. And you know what? I will answer it for her much more succinctly. Her weaknesses are on the economy. Again, record inflation, tie-breaking votes that sent us skyrocketing into inflation because of ridiculous spending of the Harris-Biden administration. An open border, fentanyl pouring in, missing children, war between Russia and Ukraine, an attack on Israel, a failed Afghanistan withdrawal. The American people know that Kamala Harris has weakness after weakness. She does not deserve the promotion that she is asking for, and only President Donald Trump can fix the 4 years of devastation that Kamala Harris has caused.
That was Trump 2024 campaign senior advisor Danielle Alvarez, and I really couldn't have said it better myself. I mean, seriously, guys, will Kamala Harris ever answer a question? And when is she going to stop blaming Donald Trump? You know what I mean? As they described her on another panel with multimillionaire investor Kevin O'Leary, lacking in empathy and woefully inadequate and unprepared.
It's more of this verbal salad. She won't take responsibility. And when I have this discussion with her advocates and her proxies, even they admit behind closed doors, I don't feel any compassion on this issue from her. It's a huge mistake. Now, if I were advising her right now, I'd say, listen, stop with this. Own it. Show you care. tell people it's hurt you. It'll never happen again. You were the border czar, yes or no, or whatever you want to call it, and you failed on that mandate, but you know exactly what you did wrong, you're going to fix it. Can you imagine if she did that, how this would help her at this point? People could connect with her. There's no connection. There's no authenticity. I'm very critical of this particular issue for her. I really feel she just won't take responsibility, and it's killing her.
That criticism so well-founded and equally launched as well, Kayleigh, toward President Biden, right? It's sort of, we've heard that same, it's not a gripe, it's a very accurate notation of the lack of empathy, the lack of human quality. I can't figure out, Kayleigh, what I'm more shocked and disheartened by with Kamala. Is it the fact that she's so woefully inadequate with her policies, with understanding, or that she's so woefully unprepared, seemingly, for any question, for any scenario, when she's been the one our tax dollars have been paying as vice president for the last 3.5 years? I am shocked at how little she seems to know, how little experience she clearly draws from, how absolutely ineffective she has been these last days and years.
Absolutely, Emily. I mean, that's what I was thinking this morning, as I watched this last night and watched more of it this morning. She took off Tuesday, and people say, oh, no, she did the Telemundo interview. She did Hallie Jackson. Yeah, but she took off the campaign trail. She stayed in D.C. Yesterday, we heard a 2-minute statement from her from the Naval Observatory, and then she does this town hall, but she's off the campaign trail. You have had 48 hours to prepare for this town hall, and this is what we get. To say that you were right to wait 3 years to invoke executive power. I love to say it, Emily, 212F. You knew it. 212F. You waited 3 years and you were right to do that. Okay, well, if you were right, then you mean you were right to let in 11 million people. You were right to let in the killers of Lake and Riley, Jocelyn Ngari, and Rachel Morin. I know you didn't want that to happen. I know you expressed empathy for those individuals. But saying you were right is saying you were right to let in those killers. And you're saying you were right to let in the Venezuelan gangs that, yes, have taken over a handful of apartment buildings that, according to Martha Raddatz, we all need to accept because those are just the plebeians out in Aurora. And we're living in our swanky D.C. apartments, or I guess in her case, the Naval Observatory. It's so out of touch. Kevin is spot on. And Donald Trump, it's interesting when you hear him say, yes, I know the economy is the number one issue. Borders number two. But Trump has said he thinks immigration is going to determine this election. And that guy's gut, it's telling him something.
Now, seriously, guys, I've heard from people comment how voting for Kamala Harris is kind of like voting for your own execution. Actor and director Mel Gibson said that she's got an IQ of a fence post.
A lot of people I know what it'll be like if we let her in.
Yeah.
Oh, really? And that ain't good.
Yeah.
Well, miserable track record, appalling track record, no policies to speak of.
Yeah. And the border, right?
And she's got the IQ of a fence post.
Now, let me repeat that for you guys. Miserable track record, appalling track record, no policies to speak of, and she's got the IQ of a fence post. I guess Democrats just didn't get the memo. Their hand-picked candidate was a poor choice, and this is coming from the American voting people. As CNN anchor Dana Bash said in their panel after the town hall, if their goal was to close the deal, they're not sure she did that. But again, the killer line here was from David Axelrod, Obama's key bro in his presidential campaigns. He said that when she doesn't want to answer a question, her habit is to kind of go word salad city. He even pointed out that Kamala Harris did that on a couple of answers. One on Israel. Anderson Cooper asked a very direct question: would you be stronger on Israel than Trump? And then there was like a 7-minute answer, but none of that related to the question he was asking. He also said that she would acknowledge no concerns about any of the administration's policies. And for the longtime political strategist, that is a huge mistake. Axelrod said that sometimes you just have to concede things, and she did not concede much. CNN host Abby Phillip also chimed in to say that Kamala just doesn't want to go there, and the stress is really starting to show now. National Democrats have told the press that they're concerned about Kamala Harris's standing less than 2 weeks ahead of the election day on November 5th, as former President Donald Trump leads in polling averages of all 7 major battleground states. I mean, if you ask a lot of Americans, and I do mean a lot, the race shouldn't even be this close in the first place. First, they're trying to wheelchair Joe Biden across the finish line. Then they shoehorned Kamala Harris in his place. Nobody wanted her. Nobody voted for her. And so now they're trying to make it look like Donald Trump is a fascist and that Kamala Harris is the only choice in this election. Well, Americans have had it with the political elite trying to tell them what to do and who to vote for. And you can bet that they're going to try to make their voices heard this November. November, right guys? Drop a quick yes in the comments down below. Hit the like button to show your support for the channel and for the message that we're trying to get out to more like-minded Americans. In fact, we're trying to get it beyond like-minded Americans. We already understand this. It's the Kamala Harris supporters, the never Trumpers, and those folks who are suffering from Trump derangement syndrome that we're really trying to reach here. And hey guys, don't be a stranger. Subscribe to the channel and tap that notification bell. That way you guys can join our truth community right here on YouTube, all right? Absolutely, totally free to do so. You will definitely be helping us out a ton. We're trying to hit 700,000 subscribers by November 5th, so every sub helps. Let's get Donald Trump across the finish line, all right? Now, more about this Harris CNN town hall and how the vice president bombed the whole thing, all right? All right, so let's talk about some of my takeaways from the first night, all right? So first, there's the fact that the Democratic presidential nominee just basically made it a matter of hammering her typical talking points during interviews and stump speeches when it came to the Israel-Hamas war in Gaza, immigration, the economy, and how she would lead differently than President Joe Biden and other issues. Really? No surprise here. Kamala Harris just pretty much kept her answers safe and avoided making news when asked by voters on hot button topics. This right here, during a time when a presidential nominee should be fighting for the spotlight in all those headlines. She's trying to play it safe. Anderson Cooper asked if she felt that the Biden administration should have issued an executive order sooner in order to limit the asylum at the U.S. southern border in order to curb the influx of migrants. Well, for the vice president, they did the right thing. And she added that the best thing would be bipartisan work on immigration reform from Congress. Then, of course, surprise, surprise, she fell back to blaming Donald Trump and saying that he ended a negotiation among bipartisan senators earlier this year when pressed on immigration. She was also asked by a voter about what she would do to ensure that not another Palestinian dies due to bombs being funded by U.S. tax dollars. Good question, right? Well, it was a swing and a miss for the vice president. She just pretty much repeated her same typical talking points again by calling for the war to end, for security for Palestinians and Israelis. I mean, they may as well just kind of played clips from her old interviews and speeches because it was a whole lot of nothing new. The usual line of far too many innocent Palestinian civilians have been killed, ending the war and bringing the hostages held by Hamas home. I mean, those are pretty good talking points and those things should be done. But again, did she really even answer the question? And then of course, there's Kamala Harris's obsession with former President Donald Trump. Even in her own town hall, she inevitably talked mostly about Trump and how he's a fascist and a threat to democracy. Really, nothing new that we haven't heard before from her. When Anderson Cooper asked her, "Do you think Donald Trump is a fascist?" she responded, "Yes, she does." A lot of what she said ultimately led to Trump being a fascist. When asked later about her pro-Israel stance and what she would say to voters who were thinking about supporting a third-party candidate because of the Biden administration's handling of the war in Gaza, she said that for many people who care about this issue, they also care about bringing down the price of groceries, who also care about our democracy and not having a president of the United States who admires dictators and is a fascist. Wow. So again, another non-answer to the actual question and just her repeating that Donald Trump is a fascist. Cooper also asked Harris if she believes Donald Trump is anti-Semitic. And so that's when she called him dangerous and a danger to the well-being and security of America. Oh, and then of course there was the part about Kamala Harris trying to talk about her many mistakes. She said that she's probably worked very hard at making sure that she's well-versed on issues, and it's a mistake not to be well-versed on an issue and be compelled to answer a question. You see, Kamala Harris was originally asked by a voter about which weaknesses she brings to the table and how she plans to overcome them while in office. Harris said that she's certainly not perfect, but then she went on to identify what she thought was a strength. She talked about not being quick to have the answer as soon as you ask it about a specific policy issue sometimes, because she's always going to want to research it and study it even. She described it as her being kind of a nerd sometimes. And that, for Kamala, was her answer to what her weakness was. Not her policy flip-flops, not her lack of answers on the economy and the border security, not even the millions of illegal immigrants that she helped let into the country. That is Kamala for you guys. Now, former President Donald Trump, he didn't dignify CNN with a town hall appearance, but he may as well have been there for all the times that Kamala Harris talked about her. Somebody actually took account and found that Vice President Kamala Harris mentioned Trump by name more than 24 times during her CNN town hall, including when pressed about specific policies that she would institute if elected to the White House. Fox News found that Donald Trump's name came up 26 times from Harris. Meanwhile, Trump was mentioned overall by moderator Anderson Cooper or audience members a total of 43 times. All of this in a span of an hour and 15 minutes from 9 p.m. to 10:15 in the evening. Now, one shining moment for Trump, yes, a shining moment for Trump in the Kamala Harris town hall was when Anderson Cooper pressed Kamala Harris on her support of a bipartisan bill that would provide funding for a border wall that she previously criticized as a stupid idea from Trump. The CNN host brought up the fact that even though Kamala Harris called it stupid, the compromise bill she wants to pass includes $650 million in funding for the border wall. So the question was, is a border wall stupid? Now, again, Kamala Harris didn't answer the question and instead talked about Trump. Talked about how Trump said Mexico would pay for it and how they blocked the building of the wall until they were only able to finish about 2% of it. Anderson Cooper asked her again, so you don't think it's stupid anymore? Here's Harris's response word for word. I think what he did and how he did it did not make as much sense because he actually didn't do much of anything. I just talked about that wall, right? We just talked about it. He didn't actually do much of anything. Yeah, I'll let you guys digest that one on your own, okay? But you get the point. Another moment from the interview, Cooper asked Harris about her plans to tackle reported price gouging by corporations. Now, again, Harris's answer was all about Trump. For some weird reason, she thought to bring up the misled idea that Trump should have been there, but he refused to come. I don't know where that came from. Then she said Donald Trump would put in place a national sales tax of at least 20% on everyday goods and necessities, and that, by economists' estimates, independent economists, would cost you as the American taxpayer and consumer an additional $4,000 a year. Yeah, well, first of all, Donald Trump chose not to accept the invitation because he knew CNN was ultimately going to be biased about it. Second, he didn't come because, unlike Kamala Harris, he was too busy actually talking to the people in the swing states. And about the national sales tax, you know, she and her economists are just pulling numbers out of thin air because you know who Americans trust more on the economy based on all the polls, right? Yeah, that's right. It's former President Donald Trump. And so lastly, this just really brings my point home. Even without him there, Donald Trump still managed to grab the spotlight from Kamala Harris. And I would even venture to dare to say that he won that town hall against the vice president. Would you guys agree? How do you win a debate without even being there? That is amazing. Trump pulled it off though. Drop a quick yes or no in the comments down below. Let's get some support going here, guys. And also another friendly reminder, if you haven't already, do not forget to subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell for more updates like this. Also, if you want to join our Patreon community for early updates, early content being released, and of course, also exclusive content that I don't share here, hit the link in the description down below of this video. You'll be able to join us in our Patreon community. Thousands of you guys are already there. Now, in fact, I just released a video talking about the MSNBC meltdown over Donald Trump's very simple but very effective McDonald's visit. I guess I just couldn't handle Donald Trump mocking Kamala Harris's McDonald's claims and serving up facts at the drive-thru. Definitely a must watch after this one. But as always, guys, appreciate you guys watching. Thanks for hitting the like button and subscribing and sharing the video. I'll see you next time.